So one of the
Um,
things I love how you mentioned radio here, and this is not on my outline, but this might be very interesting coming from your perspective. Obviously, the way people consume music has changed in the 21st century. The terrestrial radio still exists; it's still out there, but like we have streaming platforms and we have internet radio and we have, I mean, like the playlist generation, right, where people are trying to get added to popular playlists and things like that. The waterfall effect, where you're releasing singles, one every 2 months or whatever. Things have changed so much. So as a content creator, which is essentially what you are as an artist, has the way you're creating content changed because of the way that kind of the dynamic around you has?
yes, and it's about to even more so. With the next thing I want to do is something that doesn't involve making a full length record. I still believe in records. I still like making records. I like the process of it because it just feels right. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? We just did this tribute to the Redheaded Stranger album, and it was great. So cool.
I wish I was there, man. I
Oh,
heard all
it
about
was
it.
it was so cool. And it was so cool. It was a lot of work for me because I was learning all the wheelie guitar parts and all that stuff. Um, but you know, when I'm listening to this over and over and over and over and over again, uh, I can't help, especially that record, because it's made to be a story. The whole from one song to the next. You take one thing out of it, it's not as good because it tells us the whole as a concept record, it tells a story. So I still believe in that idea where it's like there's a reason when I go and if I make a whole record, there's a reason I go to pick, the order in a certain way. It has to do with how they flow together and all that stuff. And I think that I grew up in that generation where you sit down and you listen to a record or you just bought it with your money.
Exact. Yep.
You just saved your money to go and get it. It matters. You don't know which song is going to be your favorite just because it's the one you hear on the radio doesn't mean it's going to be your favorite.
Right.
So like I still believe in that, but I also know that like as you say as a creator, I don't my wife tells me it's like, you after I'll make a record, she's like, you always get this way after you finish an album and release it. You just go into the dumps. Like you get like depressed and it's just like you get all this insecurity and self-doubt because you spent all this time making this thing
It's that
and it's
artistic crash, right?
right. And it's
Yeah.
so much fun to create. And then you put it out there and, uh,
And then there's that vacuum, right? There's
that's
nothing
it.
like, yeah.
And I mean, even if people like it's not like you feel that immediately. It takes some time
Hmm.
for people to chew on it and wrap their heads around it. And now, so it's even different too, just because of the way, like you say, people consume music in a different way, and their attention spans are shorter than ever, and oftentimes. The way that they discover a band is not even because they heard it from their friends or they heard it on the radio or whatever. They just are just trolling algorithmic
Yep.
playlists. And then they hear it and they go, "Oh, that's kind of cool. I'll add this one." They don't even know the name of the band.
Nope.
They just like they like it, and so it gets added into their mix more and more. So, yeah, I would love to stay in the studio honestly and just keep writing, making records and releasing them regardless of what people, how people do it just because it's the process of doing it is fun, but I don't necessarily want to with whatever I'm going to do next to bog down with a chunk of 12 songs and just really pour over them forever. I want to try something a little more immediate. uh I won't speak about it yet because I don't want to jinx it.
Yeah. Well,
But I
it's
want to try
exciting to hear
something.
you talk about something new and
Yeah.
different
Well,
and
I
things
have
like
all
that.
the material. That's the thing. I got all these songs. I'm getting more than I ever have, and sitting there thinking, well, how do I do this? Because I can't make enough records to 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 release even you know like half of what's going on here.
And I mean,
I,
you're a high volume writer too, aren't you?
I am now. I'm
Yeah.
not as high volume as one of some of my friends who are like actually staff writers in Nashville and stuff like that, and would
Right.
probably laugh at me when I talk about, yeah, I write at least one song a week. They're like, dude, I write three a day. You know
That's
what I
like
mean? You're
lunch
like,
break for them, man.
right? I
Yeah.
know, but for me, it's been a really good thing, and it's just pretty prolific for my standards. But
Here's a question for you, Matt.
sure.
Now that you've released a couple of records as a solo project. I know it's still full band and all that, but it's basically under your given name, Matt Hillyer, rather than 1100 Springs. Has the writing or anything changed between being with 1100 Springs, releasing music as the band, and now you're releasing music under your name?
I think so. I mean, not drastically. It's still, it's most of it is still stuff that, if 1100 Springs were still around and I pitched most of these songs, I think that they'd probably get into it. But I don't know, there's a handful that are really just kind of out there in left field that if I'd have taken it to the band, I know that they would have just been like, I don't get it. I don't think people who like us are going to get it. I think you need to, stick to the formula. Not that I couldn't, get off the beaten path with the band, but
Right.
if you have an established band and you do write to what the fans would expect. And especially if you're a country dance band, it's like you go and you throw some weird jazzy stuff in there, some out there Harry Nilsson style Beatles stuff.
So this kind of a reputation you're trying to stick with when you're with the band and putting music out under that umbrella.
Well, if you're lucky enough to have any kind of following, then don't look a gift horse in the mouth.
Yeah,
If
I
they,
understand that.
if you know that kind of what your people are going to be into, I mean, by all means, do do what you feel is right. But 1100 Springs and David Bowie are two totally different things.
Absolutely.
We didn't need to reinvent ourselves the way that maybe he did. But
I love how earlier you talked about a record, a concept record, one song to the next. It's important. You know, song one is important to song two, and vice versa. But for you, even like your records are connected too artistically. That's one thing I noticed between the last two records, that there was an artistic connection between the two, wasn't there?
for sure, and we recorded like three more songs than we actually put on Glorietta.
Yeah.
And I wanted to keep the momentum going for sure. So I really kind of tried to stay on top of that and use the same players produced by the same producer, and give it, a continuation. If we could, I wanted them to sound cohesive, like they both kind of belonged together. Now they're different records, but at the same time, it's like, yeah. Now I'm glad you picked up on that because it was important to me at the time. Just because I didn't want, if we were going to use some leftover tracks, I didn't want them to stand out
Yeah.
like oddballs with the rest of the record. And I really had so much fun making Glorietta that it was kind of a no brainer to go, well, let's just keep it going. That was pretty cool and fun. So let's keep it going
Yeah, that
with
was like
that.
an all-star team too, man. Like the session players and everybody you had working on this record. Just to name a few: Lloyd Maines on pedal steel, and
Uh huh.
of course Heather Stalling on fiddle, and Willie's bass player on bass. And
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, and they're all old friends, So
Mhm.
like, Lloyd's so cool. They're all. I mean, they're all great. And Arjuna, who played drums, had played with 1100 Springs, and of course Reverend Horton Heat also. And that's one of the fun things about doing stuff now is just that. Not that because 1100 did a show back in February. It's the first one we've done in like 4 years.
Yeah,
And it felt really, really good to get back on stage with just the guys, and just, to rehearse it and then to play it. It's like, man, there is something supremely special about each and every person up on this stage and the music that we make when we get together. But it is fun and refreshing also to be able to play with different people. It's a good
yeah,
time.
I love that. So just a couple more questions before we get to our break, and then I got some short segments that we'll do with you, Matt, before we get ready
Cool.
today. I appreciate it, man, for hanging out and being on the show for the first time. But so excited to have you here and picking your brain. So let me ask you this: is there anything in the music business that isn't fun for you?
Getting there.
Yeah,
Getting there is a drag. Like everything. I mean, that's not always true because sometimes the travel is good for my mind and get out of the house and just sort of clear my mind. But after a while, it's like
repetition.
driving places just gets old and not that I have that much gear to load at this point, but I don't like that part. And then waiting around, that's like Tom Petty had it right. Like the waiting is the hardest part, and
Yeah.
especially the last 10 minutes before a show. I hate that. They're my least favorite moments of the night because it's just like at that point you're that close.
That's where the
Yeah.
most stuff can go wrong too. Is that last
Could
10
be,
minutes?
yeah. That's funny yeah, that's a good observation. But like,
Right.
um, it's just by then you just want to get up there and make it start.
Yep.
I've never been very good at just being cool about just like trying to be cooler about just like no, start on time, don't start early, go when you're supposed to go,
Yeah,
take
you're
it
not supposed
easy.
to start early in the music business. Come on.
No, you're supposed to start a little late,
Yeah,
right?
that's right.
If you're cool.
What do we
But I
call
can't
that?
wait. I mean, I still,
Musician time is what we call that.
yeah, I still like it enough to where it's just like that. Those moments before playing is just like,
Yeah.
I don't like that.
I always
But
say to my wife, "Well, it's a 7:30 show, which means they'll start at 8. We'll be done by midnight."
yeah, right, yeah. Well, sometimes, and this is a lot. There are just times when it doesn't matter how cool the show is going to be or how much I want to do it. There's a moment before leaving to go to the show where I'm just like, I verbalize it's like, I don't want to go.
Yep.
you
Yep.
I don't want to go.
I know.
And if I'm at home, my wife's like, why do you always say you don't want to go? You want to go. It's like, I want to do the show, but I don't want to.
Yep.
I'm relaxed here.
Yep.
Now I got to go, and then I'm going to have to wait around and do all this stuff. If I could just click my heels like Dorothy and appear on stage and do the thing, that would be the way. But it's everything leading up to it, and then
I love
you know,
that. So the
yeah.
other side of the coin, what things do you enjoy outside of music?
Well, I like being with my family. That's anything that I can do, being with the family, and really, honestly, I mean, I like movies. I love to go see movies. Yeah, most of the stuff has to do with music, though. When it
Yeah.
comes to stuff that I do, I always make a joke that, and it's about mostly true. And people are like, "Hey, you want to come, play golf?" I'm like, I'm not good at things.
Yeah.
Like I'm just not.
I'm staying home, man. I'm
I'm
staying
not good
home.
at things, man. Like I'm good at a handful of stuff, and I'm typically doing that stuff. And if I'm not, then I'm probably doing whatever my wife and kids tell me to do, which is fine by me.
Yep. Yep.
That'll keep me out of trouble theoretically.
Absolutely. That's why the ladies are the boss, right?
That's right.
They have
That's
do
right.
do what they're do what we're told, man.